How was your health and safety research with hand tools?
It was good. So I've completed the whole entire slideshow.
Cool.
It's 28 pages. I believe it's 28 pages.
How long would it take to present it to year nines?
Pardon?
How long would it take if you had to present it to a whole load of year nines?
25 minutes.
Would they be interested?
No.
So that's the challenge. Like when you're making any sort of presentation, you've got to get loads of information across.
I think with certain parts of it, I don't think it's 100% necessary to tell a bunch of year nines, by the way, you can't have these chemicals in this box.
Yeah.
That doesn't affect them because that's not their job. The only bits of the PowerPoint which might affect them is if they get asked to use power tools, going up a ladder. There are only, I reckon, at least 6 pages which actually affect a year 9. The rest affects, maybe an upper sixth or a teacher, but never a year 9. That's the problem.
In a way, to be fair, you're the only person, someone doing production arts is likely to be the only person using power tools anyway. And then probably not all that much and only under supervision. But it's still something that you need to learn about. And the idea of doing a slideshow presentation is a really good way of making sure that you have to kind of like learn that knowledge.
Yeah.
Because if we just gave you all the books and said read them,
be really boring.
That's not really giving you the knowledge. Your brain wouldn't learn it. It would just, so making a presentation for your sake to give to a bunch of year 9s. But it's also really a really good skill to learn about how to edit out the information which is not necessary.
And like what I've been doing is if you look on it, I bullet pointed each key point in it. The slides. And then I made little flashcards which have like what I need to say for each bullet point. But my main concern is that how interested is a year 9 going to be listening to me talk about chemical substances which we don't use?
Yeah. So you could do a much shorter one for the year 9, and I don't know what Mr. Wands has said, but it would be great if you had your full one with all of the information that you need to cover, and then you made an edit version of that, which you then could present.
I would just copy and paste the slides onto another document.
Or just copy the entire document into a new one, and then delete all the stuff you don't want. You can do it really quickly like that.
Yeah.
So call it year 9 actual or something is what I would call it, and then get rid of everything that isn't necessary, and then think about what would you say the most common, like the if you could only give one bit of health and safety advice to someone working in the theatre for the first time, like they're all in a play, some of them are backstage, some of them are actors, if they were only going to learn one thing from you about safety, what would it be?
I have 2. 1, don't leave your script on the floor on the wings. That's one that always comes to my head.
Yeah.
At the moment, with all the wires and everything like that, no water has to be in a bottle around the equipment. 3 points of contact when climbing up the ladder to the attic. Never go up by yourself.
So that one, that's a really interesting one, but I wouldn't say that to a whole cast of year 9 because they're all going to think they're going up there.
Yeah.
But officially speaking, even the crew aren't allowed up there. Officially speaking, we'd be in trouble if any year 9s were up there at all.
Really?
It should be someone. They could come up with a member of staff in order to be shown around, but there should be a senior pupil. I think strictly it should be me or Mr. Wandsy. We shouldn't really be sending pupils up there at all because that ladder doesn't have a cage around it. And you can bang your head, all kinds of things can happen, so in a way, I wouldn't mention that to students. We would tell them separately.
Fire safety, where you go during a fire.
Yeah. So what to do in the event of an accident, is tell someone, and then our instructions.
Me and Swansea were thinking about this.
Yeah.
You know, when there's a fire alarm, you usually have a checklist about, you know, who the cast, the crew, you go through it, right? And, you know, during a fire, you know, it says never bring anything with you, just go.
Yeah.
We had the idea of, for every single performance, you know, production that we have, and there's a fire alarm, we put a little clipboard at the front door for the ASM. So on the way out, they take the clipboard with them.
Yeah.
It's simply outside because it's just easy.
That's a really good idea. There's quite a lot of things that we could learn from, you know, that we could improve all the time. I would have thought if people are in the theatre for, like, very often I, you know, have to give a speech to, I think I've done it for you when you're in Calamity Jane and stuff, you know, like I have to say to a whole load of kids who are all quite little about working in the theatre. And one of the things I always say is that you need to treat a theatre as a very dangerous place. And everyone thinks of it as a fun place, but it's also very dangerous. There are more accidents in theatres than there are in most workplaces, like mines and things like that, where you'd think they were more dangerous. So more people are injured in the theatre than, you know, in all of mining in the whole world. You know, it's like, and one of the reasons for that is a lot of the theatre is dark and painted black.
Yeah.
And when there are lights, they're all for the benefit of the audience, not the benefit of the actors. So not only are you surrounded by matte black painted stuff and dark wings, but you're also blinded by lights that are pointing at you. They're not there for you, they're there for someone else. So they actually make it even harder to see where you're going. So the most common accidents in theatre are people walking into things or tripping over things or falling down.
I remember when we did Trojan Barbie. Do you remember that pink heart with all the Barbie dolls on it?
You've still got that.
It was the first night and I ran into it. Not ran into it, but I bumped into it. And I remember the ASM, me and ASM had to take it backstage. We had to like quickly like glue it all back together.
Yeah.
Like Mr. Fraser was somewhere else. We did it very, very secretly before anyone really knew.
Yeah, I'd say that was the one thing. If I could say one thing to someone, I think to make most people most safe, it would be that when you're walking backstage, you've got to go very slowly, putting one foot in front of another and holding your hand out in front of your face.
The only time where I would ever consider running in a theatre, which is never usually, is like
if a bear came in.
Pardon?
If a bear came in and was chasing you.
Fire. But you know, so you have your wings and you have that little like channel behind backstage where like the stairs go down.
Yeah.
I've had to run between there. I've had to get to the other side. But that's the only place I would ever consider running is if I was late for something.
Even then, that's the place where most people do run, but you're still not allowed to run there. If we've designed a production which makes people think they need to run, the solution isn't to run. The solution is to give them more time.
Yes.
It's far safer to add a line to a play than it is to have some worry.
Sorry, sir.
That's all right. That's fine.
Yes, please. It's okay.
I'll bring it up.
Yes, please. Thank you. Hello.
Hello.
Sorry about that.
Room service.
It's breakfast.
That's quite. It's lunchtime.
That's what I meant.
So it's really important thing to say is that, you know, like people running in the theatre is completely not allowed and should never happen. The only time there is a time it can happen, and that's on stage as part of the play in a rehearsed and safe way. An actor can run on the stage. You can have 20 actors running around in a circle.
We did that.
You can do that, but that's safe because you've worked that out. But you should never run because you're trying to get somewhere because you'll be distracted by all kinds of things and you'll be in a hurry and people, you know, someone can step out in front of you. So it's really, really important. That would be the most important thing is the fact that it's dark and you will walk into things if you're not careful. I think that one of the biggest crimes is leaving the script on the floor as well.
Thank you.
People quite often learn Loads of people don't listen to me when I tell them not to leave their script in the wing. Then when a whole load of scripts go missing on day 2 of the rehearsals,
everyone wonders where they go.
People then learn quite quickly.
So I remember it was we did the importance of being earnest. I found a wing and it was Jess's. I went, oh, no. And I think it was day 1. It was like in the afternoon, and I brought it out and I put it on the stage, and I wasn't going to say anything, and then Mr. Onesie comes along and goes, "Oh, what's that?" I'm like, "Oh, it's a script I found on the wing," and he goes, oh. I'm like, "Oh no." I was like, "Are you going to bin it?" I'm like, "Not going to bin it, sir, because it's her first time in the theatre."
Yeah. And there's also like the you know, sweets and drinks backstage, you know, are kind of completely banned. So there should only be water backstage, and that only in the dressing rooms. Even though, and for any production that we do ever, even if there's not lots of electrics and there are no cables, we still ban any kind of sticky drink. And it's a water only backstage. And in a way, like sweets and stuff aren't necessarily dangerous, but they're just distracting. It's just anything which distracts you from being fully aware and concentrating. Even if you're sat in the dressing room with nothing else to do for the whole act of a play, like say Lucy was for the importance of being earnest, you know, she's not in act 2.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have been back there eating sweets on her phone, because they are things that draw you in and make you distracted. So that's a health and safety issue, really, as well as the one about focusing and performing. So she could read a book and drink water, but that's all she should be doing. You know, and it's kind of, if you think about it, people might think that's mean, but
yes, yeah,
you're in a really exciting place anyway, and you know what you think and what you feel, and even if you get bored a bit when you're not on stage, that's kind of an important experience. You're not just doing nothing, you're doing nothing backstage for a certain length of time, and then you've got to be dead ready for your next thing. So
I always bring sweets to theatre, and I'm guilty of doing that, and that's because I get tired very easily, super easily. That's why I don't sleep very well. But